They'll tell you wealth is money. That power is profit. That success is a race to the top, even if it means climbing over the backs of others to get there. But those who've truly tasted legacy, the builders, the leaders, the names we never forget, Lincoln, Carnegie, Mandela, Jobs, they knew something deeper. Something the world still hasn't fully grasped. You don't build an empire by hoarding gold. You build it by building people. Because money can burn. Markets collapse. But the impact you make in the life of another human being, that outlives you. That multiplies. That becomes a force greater than you'll ever comprehend. When Thomas Edison was losing his eyesight, it was his team that became his vision. When Walt Disney faced bankruptcy after bankruptcy, it was his belief in others that helped him draw a dream that would never die. So if you want to build wealth, not just income, not just assets, but generational, soul-rich, purpose-driven wealth, start with people. Believe in people before they believe in themselves. That's the foundation. See, most people walk around starving for significance. Not food, not shelter, but recognition. They want to be seen, heard, felt. Not for what they can produce, but for who they are. And if you can give that to them, if you can make a person feel like they matter, you unlock something far more powerful than money. You unlock loyalty, creativity, commitment, fire. You awaken the sleeping giant inside another human being. And in doing so, you build more than wealth. You build a world. But here's the catch, it takes belief. Not in numbers. Not in spreadsheets. But in the raw, unfinished, sometimes unrecognizable potential that hides inside every person you meet. Henry Ford once said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes." But Ford didn't just alter his own, he altered the lives of thousands by investing in ordinary people and demanding excellence where others saw only factory hands. He built wealth by building humans into thinkers, workers, visionaries. And that's your invitation too, not just to rise alone, but to lift others as you climb. To be the person who doesn't just chase success, but creates it in others. Because the truth is, the greatest fortune is not what you earn. It's who you help become more. You want to multiply your influence? Start by multiplying belief. But belief alone isn't enough. You have to invest. Not just money. Not just time. You invest with your words. With your attention. With the way you look someone in the eye and make them feel like they were born to do something great, even when the world has only handed them reasons to quit. Because inside every underachiever is an untold story. Inside every silent struggler is a storm of potential, waiting for a voice, your voice, to say, "I see you. You matter. Keep going." That kind of encouragement? That's not soft. That's not fluffy. That's fire. That's fuel. That's wealth building at the soul level. Andrew Carnegie, who built one of the largest fortunes in American history, said the ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee. But unlike sugar, it multiplies. You don't use people to build things. You build people, and watch things rise from the ground up. Teams rise. Visions rise. Cultures rise. Profits rise. Why? Because when people feel seen, they build like it matters. When people feel trusted, they show up like warriors. When they feel safe, they create. When they feel important, they lead. And when they feel inspired, they move mountains, with or without the title, with or without the credit. So ask yourself this. Are you building a legacy of control, or a legacy of growth? Are you stacking bricks, or shaping builders? Are you feeding egos, or lighting torches? Because you don't leave impact by being the smartest in the room. You leave impact by making others feel like they can walk into any room and own it. That's the quiet currency of those who lead for real. The ones who walk into chaos and bring calm. The ones who walk into silence and awaken belief. The ones who don't demand attention, but attract loyalty. And here's the truth most people will never say out loud. Your future wealth is hidden in the growth of those around you. Not in the next client. Not in the next sale. But in the lives you unlock. In the people you restore. In the hidden genius you refuse to ignore. You want to build wealth? Then become a builder of people. Brick by brick. Word by word. Day by day. Because you're not just creating success. You're creating success creators. And that is how empires outlive empires. That is how your name becomes more than a brand, it becomes a standard. A symbol. A light others follow long after you're gone. And here's what they don't teach in most boardrooms or business schools. People don't remember the pitch you gave. They remember how you made them feel while giving it. They remember the pause you took to listen when no one else did. They remember the moment you saw them, not just their output, not just their resume, but them. Because impact isn't made in applause. It's made in the quiet spaces. In the hallway conversation after the meeting. In the check-in that has nothing to do with metrics. In the faith you place in someone before they've earned it. That's leadership. Not the kind that needs a spotlight, but the kind that builds spotlights, then turns them toward others. Not the kind that walks into a room looking to impress, but the kind that walks in asking, who needs belief today? Because when you build people, you don't just shift outcomes. You shift identities. You awaken purpose in the places it's been buried. You become the spark that someone else uses to ignite their own fire. And that ripple? It moves. It multiplies. It outlasts you. Look at every great movement, every lasting company, every culture that stood the test of time. You'll find builders of people at the center. You'll find someone who dared to trade ego for empathy. Someone who chose to elevate instead of dominate. And yes, there will always be those who confuse power with control. Who manage with fear instead of trust. Who think barking orders is leadership. But control is fragile. Fear breaks things. Ego burns bridges. The real leaders? They build bridges. They carry water. They pour belief like it's oxygen, because to someone, it is. You never know the impact of a well-placed "I believe in you." You never know who's one conversation away from not giving up. One gesture away from rewriting their story. One opportunity away from rising into everything they were meant to become. So lead with that awareness. Lead with the understanding that your legacy isn't written in your results. It's written in the people who rise because of your presence. In the confidence you pass down like a torch. In the excellence you inspire, not by demanding it, but by expecting it with love. That's the wealth that doesn't crash with the markets. That's the kind that survives recessions, layoffs, and trends. That's the kind that gets paid forward, generation after generation. Because the highest return on investment? It's not in stocks. Not in real estate. It's in people. In your team. In your community. In the invisible seeds you plant every time you choose to lift, rather than tear down. So don't just build a business. Don't just build a brand. Build builders. Because buildings crumble. But belief builds forever. And that is the real empire. And here's the paradox of true leadership. The more you give it away, the more powerful it becomes. Because influence isn't hoarded. It's handed off, like a baton in a race that doesn't end with you. It multiplies in the hands of others when you trust them enough to carry it forward. The best leaders don't just raise standards. They raise people to meet those standards. Not with pressure, but with belief. Not by breaking them down, but by showing them what already lives inside: courage, clarity, capacity. And the truth is, people will rarely rise for expectations alone. But they will always rise for someone who believes they can. That's not theory. That's human nature. We were wired to become what someone else saw in us, even when we couldn't see it in ourselves. So if you're in a position of leadership, whether you're running a company, a classroom, or a family, you have a choice every day: to crush dreams or to cultivate them. To micromanage or to mentor. To be the echo of fear, or the voice of hope. Because here's what separates the transactional from the transformational. Transactional leaders want control. Transformational leaders want growth. Transactions end. Transformations echo. Ask yourself, what will echo after you? Will it be your profit margin, or your people? Will it be the title on your business card, or the lives you changed because you dared to lead with heart? We talk a lot about ROI. Return on investment. But how often do we talk about role, return on leadership? You measure that in the people who stay long after the paycheck. In the loyalty that can't be bought but is earned through consistency and care. In the resilience of a team that doesn't crumble when things go wrong, but rallies, because they know someone believes in them. That's role. And it's worth more than any quarterly bonus. Because a team that trusts you will fight for your vision. A team that feels seen will solve problems before you even know they exist. A team that feels safe will innovate, take risks, and bring their whole self to the mission, not just the parts that fit inside the job description. This is how cultures are born. Not in the branding decks or slogans on the wall. But in the way people feel when they walk through your doors, virtual or physical. In whether they feel like tools, or like builders. So let others chase legacy through visibility. You? Chase it through impact. Let others be obsessed with being the voice. You? Be the reason someone else finds theirs. Because one day, someone will look back and say, They didn't just lead. They lifted. They didn't just succeed. They sparked success in others. And if that's all you're remembered for, that's not just enough. That's everything. Because lifting others is not weakness. It's the strongest, most strategic move you'll ever make. It's how you future-proof your mission. How you scale purpose, not just product. Look around. Every great movement in history began with one person who dared to believe in another. Not because they had proof, but because they had vision. Because they understood that greatness doesn't always announce itself, it has to be drawn out, nurtured, called by name. And the rarest kind of leader? The one who sees gold in the dirt. The one who doesn't wait for polished talent, but polishes people through patience, challenge, and belief. See, it's easy to invest in the ones already shining. The real question is, will you invest in the ones still covered in dust? Will you give time to the intern no one notices? Will you give encouragement to the teammate struggling in silence? Will you give a second chance to the one who failed but still shows up hungry to grow? That's where legacies are born. Not in the boardroom, but in the break room. Not in awards, but in ordinary moments where someone feels valued instead of used. You want to create a culture of excellence? Start by creating a culture of belonging. Because people don't fight for perfection, they fight for places where they feel safe to grow. They fight for leaders who see beyond performance and into potential. And here's what most leaders miss. If someone leaves your team and becomes a better human because of their time with you, you've won. If they walk away more confident, more capable, more courageous, you've done what few ever do. You've planted something that will outlast every metric. Because some legacies aren't built in buildings. They're built in belief. In the quiet conviction that people are more than what they produce. That their value isn't in their output, but in their growth. And that's where you win long term. Because in the end, the world doesn't remember how many hours you worked. It remembers who you lifted. Who you believed in. Who you challenged without crushing. Who you praised without pampering. Who you corrected with kindness and led with love. That's the kind of wealth that can't be stolen. That's the kind of empire no one can burn down, because it's built into the hearts of people who will carry your impact forward. So stop measuring leadership by how many people serve you. Start measuring it by how many people you set free. Set them free to think. To lead. To believe again. To fail and rise and fail again. Because they know you've got their back. That's how you build a movement that doesn't just survive, but soars. That's how you turn ordinary teams into extraordinary forces. That's how you create more than momentum, you create meaning. And in the end, it won't be the number in your bank account that defines you. It will be the number of people who whisper your name with gratitude, because your belief changed their life.